The untethered soul. Imagine you're sitting in a quiet room, and suddenly you become aware of a voice in your head. It's commenting on everything: the temperature of the room, what you should do next, replaying yesterday's conversation, worrying about tomorrow's meeting. This voice never stops. It judges, analyzes, plans, and criticizes in an endless stream of mental chatter. You realize with startling clarity that this voice has been your constant companion for as long as you can remember. Yet you've never questioned whether this voice is actually you. What if the most fundamental assumption about your identity, that you are your thoughts, is not only wrong, but the very thing keeping you from experiencing true freedom? At the heart of Michael Singer's profound work lies a revolutionary recognition. You are not the voice in your head, but the one who hears it. This distinction, simple yet earth-shattering, opens the door to what he calls becoming an untethered soul. A consciousness freed from the endless cycle of mental and emotional reactivity that governs most human experience. The core insight suggests that beneath the constant mental commentary lies an observer, a deeper self that remains untouched by the storms of thought and emotion. In our hyperconnected age, where external stimulation and internal mental noise have reached unprecedented levels, this ancient wisdom offers a pathway to genuine peace and authentic living. The concept Singer calls the inner roommate reveals the nature of our mental predicament with startling clarity. Picture having a roommate who follows you everywhere, commenting incessantly on your choices, rehashing past mistakes, and catastrophizing about future possibilities. You wouldn't tolerate such behavior from an actual person, yet you allow this internal voice to dominate your inner landscape without question. This roommate isn't inherently malicious. It's trying to help by analyzing and protecting you, but its constant chatter creates a layer of noise between you and direct experience. When you begin to observe this inner roommate with detached awareness, something remarkable happens. You start to notice that thoughts arise and pass away like clouds in the sky, and you, the observer, remain constant and undisturbed. This recognition doesn't require you to stop thinking or eliminate the inner voice. Instead, it invites you to change your relationship with mental activity entirely. Rather than being carried away by every thought and emotion, you can observe them with the same calm attention you might give to watching birds fly across the horizon. The practice of stepping back from mental identification leads to a profound understanding. Your true self exists in a state of natural peace and awareness that requires nothing external for its completion. Singer points to this deeper identity as the immortal aspect of your being, not immortal in the sense of living forever in a body, but immortal in that it exists beyond the temporary fluctuations of thought, emotion, and circumstance. This self doesn't need to be improved, fixed, or defended because it's already whole. This recognition challenges everything modern culture teaches about finding fulfillment. Instead of seeking happiness through achievement, relationships, or experiences, you discover that contentment is your natural state when you're not caught up in mental resistance. The wave realizes it was always part of the ocean. The cloud remembers it's simply a temporary formation in an endless sky. Your individual consciousness connects to something vast and timeless that has been present all along. The path to untethering involves what Singer calls radical acceptance, not passive resignation, but an active releasing of resistance to life as it unfolds. Most suffering arises not from circumstances themselves, but from your mental and emotional reactions to those circumstances. When unexpected challenges arise, your inner roommate immediately begins its commentary. This shouldn't be happening. I can't handle this. What will people think? Each resistant thought creates additional layers of suffering beyond the situation itself. Acceptance doesn't mean becoming passive or failing to take appropriate action. Instead, it means releasing the mental struggle against reality that drains your energy and clouds your judgment. When you stop fighting what's already happening, you can respond with clarity and wisdom rather than react from fear and resistance. You begin to flow with life's natural rhythm rather than exhausting yourself swimming against the current. Consider how this wisdom applies to our current moment in history. We live in an era of constant connectivity, where external voices compete with our inner roommate for attention. Social media feeds amplify comparison and judgment, news cycles trigger fear and outrage, and the pace of change can leave us feeling unmoored. The teachings of the untethered soul offer a sanctuary, not through escaping the world, but by finding an unshakable center within yourself that remains calm regardless of external turbulence. The practice becomes especially relevant when facing the uncertainty that characterizes modern life. Career changes, relationship challenges, health concerns, and global crises can trigger intense mental and emotional reactions. But when you recognize yourself as the observer rather than the observed, these experiences lose their power to destabilize your fundamental sense of well-being. You can engage fully with life's challenges while maintaining access to an inner space of peace and clarity. Singer's approach also addresses the epidemic of anxiety and depression that affects so many people today. These conditions often involve becoming trapped in cycles of negative thinking and emotional reactivity. By learning to observe thoughts and feelings without immediately identifying with them, you create space for healing and transformation. The painful emotions don't necessarily disappear, but you stop adding the additional suffering that comes from resisting them or making them wrong. The journey toward becoming untethered reveals that most of what you've been taught to pursue, success, approval, security, represents attempts to quiet the inner roommate through external means. But no external achievement can permanently silence mental commentary or eliminate emotional reactivity. True freedom comes from recognizing that you don't need to fix or improve your thoughts and emotions. You need to stop deriving your identity from them. This shift in perspective opens up possibilities for genuine compassion, both for yourself and others. When you see that everyone is dealing with their own version of the inner roommate, their own patterns of mental and emotional reactivity, judgment naturally softens into understanding. You realize that most human conflict and suffering stems from people acting from their unconscious patterns rather than their deeper wisdom. The key takeaway from this exploration is both simple and profound. You are not your thoughts, emotions, or circumstances, but the aware presence that observes them all. This recognition doesn't require years of meditation or spiritual practice. It can happen in any moment when you pause and notice who is doing the noticing. Alongside this realization comes a practical invitation. Instead of trying to control your inner experience, you can learn to let it flow while remaining rooted in your deeper identity as the observer. As you contemplate these ideas in the quiet of this moment, a question naturally arises. What would change in your daily life if you truly embodied the understanding that your deepest self is already free, already whole, already at peace, regardless of what thoughts arise or what circumstances unfold? Perhaps the answer isn't something you need to figure out with your mind, but something you can discover through the simple practice of noticing. Right now, in this very moment, you can sense the stillness that exists beneath the mental commentary, the awareness that remains constant while everything else changes. This stillness isn't empty or void. It's alive with possibility, pregnant with the potential for authentic living. In recognizing this timeless presence within yourself, you touch the essence of what it means to become truly untethered, free to engage with life from a place of wholeness rather than seeking wholeness through life.